Former President Bill Clinton described his longtime friend and former aide Paul Begala as a witty dynamo from Sugar Land, Texas, who brought energy, focus, and credibility to our efforts. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says that Paul embodies a passion for populism with a commitment to civility, no easy feat. Tom DeLay, the former Republican House Majority Leader, recently convicted, named Begala as one of the 5 architects of the coalition that ousted his party from power. "I have never seen such a powerful coalition," DeLay said. And radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh has said of Paul, "He's a lightweight." If you don't know who the forehead is, Paul Begala. He's the kid that played the banjo on the bridge in the movie Deliverance. Also, something you should be proud of if Rush Limbaugh said that. He is somebody that we know and love in the Democratic Party, who has done things for all of us, not only as Democrats, but as Americans, who really has embodied intelligence, but at the same time wit and that civility, which is so difficult to have in a complete package today. SEIU, the Service Employees International Union, which has been a great partner and supporter of us in DMO, has helped bring Paul here today, and I want to give them a round of applause and thank them for their service. Paul is now a political analyst that we see all the time on CNN. He was counselor, of course, to President Clinton in the White House, where he helped define and defend the administration's agenda from the State of the Union addresses to the economic, domestic, and international issues that the White House faced each day. With his partner, James Carville, he was a senior strategist for the Clinton-Gore presidential campaign in 1992. He's helped direct the political strategy of numerous other campaigns across the country and around the world. He helped his friend John F. Kennedy Jr. launch the political magazine George, and he wrote the Capitol Hillbilly column. He is the author of several New York Times bestselling books, including Is Our Children Learning?, The Case Against George W. Bush, and Buck Up, Suck Up, and Come Back When You Foul Up. Begala is a research professor at Georgetown University's Policy Institute, and in 2007 was named the prestigious Carl Sanders Distinguished Scholar in Political Leadership at the University of Georgia School of Law. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker today, Paul Begala.
Thanks very much, Eric. That was exhaustive, and I always love that Rush Limbaugh called me a lightweight, but of course, compared to Rush, we're all lightweights. It was just the OxyContin talking with Rush too. I wouldn't hold it against him. We need to be forgiving here. Thank Eric, our leader, for hosting us, and thank you for coming out. My Lord, I mean, it's a chilly morning. My wife's family are all going back 100 years, dairy farmers in Wisconsin. And Uncle Orland still runs a dairy farm. My wife's father joined the Army and left Wisconsin for 2 full-paid tours in Vietnam. But the rest of the family stayed on the farm. And Uncle Orland, on a morning like this, would look at those cows and say, "Thank you for a warm hand on a cold morning." Particularly honored to be here with my fellow Texan, Linda Chavez-Thompson. Thank you very much, Linda, for honoring us with your presence, for fighting the good fight back home in Texas, which is currently enemy-occupied territory, but we're gonna take it back. And the rest of our panelists, but particularly Henrietta Davis. Thank you so much for your leadership in Cambridge, particularly on energy and sustainable issues. Richly deserved award today. Henrietta said something that I want to pick up on. These are tough times, she said, to be a Democrat, and then very quickly added, but it's tough times for everybody. It's tough times to be an American. It's tough times in this country, and she's right on both counts. I think the one goes with the other, right? In other words, our president described this last election as a shellacking. Back home in Texas, I think Lynn and I would call it they opened up a can of butt whooping on us. I'm trying to clean it up because it's morning. The unemployment rate, first it just went up by 63 congressmen in my party. But this morning, while we were meeting, the Labor Department announced the new unemployment rate, 9.8%, up from 9.6, up to 9.8. Our economy generated 39,000 jobs this past month. 39,000. I mean, you all know this because you're in the real world. We need 150,000 jobs just to stay even because of population growth and because we're a dynamic economy. So we need 150,000 just to net zero, to not increase the unemployment rate. We only grew 39,000 jobs. Well, let me tell you, that's terrible news. This country, this economy is not moving the needle on jobs. And so, of course, when you're the Democrats, when you control the House, the Senate, the White House, when you do so well in these municipal races, of course they're going to blame us. Now, I want to talk about that and how we deal with that. We saw how the voters dealt with it. We lost the House. We lost 6 seats in the Senate. We did not lose the entire United States Senate. For that, I want to thank the Tea Party movement for preserving our majority in the Senate. But, you all know this from Delaware. They nominated a witch up there. It was very few bright spots on election night, except, of course, Eric's home state of California, where we won up and down the line. And here in Colorado and in Nevada, there were a few. But there was a part of me that took special delight in watching Christine O'Donnell, that concession speech, particularly when she said, "I'm melting." I'm happy to report she's now gone back to her home in the forest where she lures children with candy and gingerbread. But that notwithstanding, this is, it's not just a hard time, it's an angry time. There's a lot of people pretty angry, and I'm a lot angrier after the November elections. I don't know that this should or will make you feel any better in public service, but it's all across our culture. We're very angry at business. I think for good reason. Wall Street all the way down to Main Street, people are mad. 1 year ago, the most respected car maker in the world was Toyota. Yesterday, the data came out, and while Ford's sales are up 24% and GM's is up over 12%, Toyota sales are down 3%. Well, why? Well, it turns out we're kind of funny this way. When we hit that brake pedal, we want the car to stop. We own a Toyota. We bought the Prius, of course, after Al Gore's movie came out. It was the most expensive movie I ever saw in my life. But I was happy to do it. We want to do our part to, kind of control emissions and so forth. So we go and we buy this Prius, and my wife runs it around town. Well, our oldest boy is 18. He borrowed the car. He said to my wife, Mama, Toyota has a new slogan. She said, well, what's that, honey? And he said, just try and stop us now. Okay, when you go from being the most respected automaker in the world to being the punchline of a teenager's joke, you're in trouble, right? They're mad at you. And it's across that community. It is in those of us who are sports fans, we see this every day in athletics. And it just breaks your heart if you're a sports fan like I am. I mean, it was a year ago, I think it was this week even. It was right this time of year, a year ago, that Tiger Woods' wife decided to take a 9-iron to that Cadillac Escalade of his. And there came the collapse. The most bankable star, the best golfer probably to ever live, and the most bankable athlete out there, had more endorsements than anybody since Michael Jordan retired, right? Tiger Woods was at the top of the heap a year ago, and now he just lost his last major sponsor, Gatorade, dumped him. They caught him sending text messages to Powerade, and his little thing on the side with Evian, little French thing going. Okay, so Tiger's gone. It's across sports. It's not just, I don't mean to pick on him, but since he was at the top. Look at Eric's hometown of Hollywood, right? There's always somebody, God bless Lindsay Lohan. She's like a full employment act for the California Bar Association. In both senses of the word bar. Look at the church. Those of us who are people of faith. I'm a faithful Catholic, right? And let me tell you, they're testing that faith lately. I'm not sure if it made all the papers, a little scandal in my church these days, and it's gotten so bad that one of my best friends growing up, great guy, one of my best friends, is a priest in Houston. So every year, he brings his kids from his parochial school up for, the close-up trip to Washington. He has teachers and chaperones and guides that take them around, and he comes and stays with us for a week. It's great. He takes the collar off. He can just be Tom, not Father Tom, and he, stays in our home for a week every April. This year, he gets off the plane. He's wearing a golf shirt. He's not in his Roman collar. And I said, well, I was driving him back from the airport, and we weren't home yet, so we were alone. I said, well, how are things, with the scandal in the church, and how are people reacting to you differently when you wear the collar? And he said, well, it's so bad that flying up here on the plane, the guy sitting next to me asked, what do you do for a living? And I said, I work for Goldman Sachs. So, not a good sign. I don't know if it makes us feel any better that they hate politicians, but by golly, they hate us all these days. But in many cases, for good reason. This is what has been driving me crazy, and probably you too. Our friends on the right have used this economic collapse to discredit what they call big government, but I think they really mean self-government. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They would, I think, not be all that unhappy if it perished from the earth and we just had of the elite, by the elite, and for the elite. They are going right at the heart of what you do, the legitimacy of what you do. I want to talk about what we say about this and how we defend ourselves.